In 1947, a simple flight over the mountains of Washington state triggered a chain of events that would reshape history. It wasn't a battle. It wasn't a disaster. It was a sighting. One man, 9 objects, no explanation. In a world just beginning to recover from the Second World War, Arnold's experience would spark mass hysteria, government investigations, and an obsession that continues to this day. This is the story of Kenneth Arnold, a businessman and pilot whose chance encounter launched a cultural phenomenon. Born in Sebeka, Minnesota, in 1915, he was an ordinary American, well-educated, athletic, and ambitious. By the 1940s, Arnold had built a reputation as a respected businessman and skilled pilot, living in Boise, Idaho. This isn't just the beginning of the UFO craze. This is the moment flying saucers were born. His job often required him to fly from one state to another, selling equipment and meeting with clients. This made Arnold no stranger to the skies. So when Kenneth Arnold said he saw something strange in the skies on June 24, 1947, people listened. In fact, by 1947, he had logged hundreds of hours in the air. Kenneth A. Arnold was not the kind of man you'd expect to become the father of modern UFO lore. No wings, no markings. They were flat, metallic-looking, and seemed to glide and skip across the sky like saucers on water. He ran his own company, the Great Western Fire Control Supply, which specialized in fire suppression systems. The skies were crisp and blue, the Cascade Mountains sprawling beneath him. He said they were crescent-shaped or disc-like, extremely thin, and reflecting sunlight so brightly that he had difficulty watching them directly. He was a family man, practical, down-to-earth, not someone prone to wild speculation or fantastical thinking. That was a misinterpretation. A strange flash caught his eye, bright and sudden, like sunlight bouncing off a mirror. It was a clear Tuesday afternoon. Arnold had just finished a business trip in Chehalis, Washington, and was heading toward Yakima in his single-engine Calare to Plain. Americans were already primed for something new, anything to break the tension of the Cold War, the atomic age, and the paranoia that came with it. At approximately 9,200 feet above sea level, near Mount Rainier, Arnold noticed something unusual. People described similar fast-moving objects, discs, lights, and metallic craft soften, traveling in formation. Papers, from coast to coast, plastered his face next to illustrations of discs in flight. The flying saucer craze had begun. He turned toward it and saw 9 high-speed objects flying in a loose V formation, much faster than any known aircraft in 1947. He simply described what he saw. Arnold estimated their speed at over 1,200 miles per hour, double the speed of sound, and well beyond anything the U.S. military was known to possess at the time. What began as one pilot's unusual sighting quickly snowballed into mass hysteria, curiosity, and a new era of myth. The project evolved into Project Grudge, and later Project Blue Book, which continued to collect and analyze UFO reports until 1969. At first, he assumed they were a formation of military jets, but there were problems with that idea. The objects were flying too fast. Even more bizarre, the craft had no visible tails. Arnold described their movement as jerky and undulating, not a smooth glide, but more like a skipping stone. Arnold later gave multiple interviews describing the shapes of the objects. Importantly, he never said they were saucers, especially the speed. At the time, the fastest aircraft in the world was the Bell X-1, which hadn't even broken the sound barrier yet. When asked how they flew, Arnold explained, "They flew like a saucer would if you skipped it across the water." He always maintained he saw something real, something solid and unexplainable. The press took that phrase, "like a saucer," and ran with it. Thus, the term flying saucer was born, not from the shape of the object, but from the peculiar skipping motion Arnold described. Arnold's report made headlines nationwide. The press couldn't get enough of the story. Within 2 weeks, over 800 sightings of flying saucers were reported across the U.S. for the first time. The concept of extraterrestrial visitors entered mainstream consciousness. "I've never seen anything fly that fast, not even today." Kenneth Arnold, 1947. Until his death in 1984, he continued to speak on the subject with integrity, urging future investigators to pursue the truth with open minds. Kenneth Arnold himself became an instant celebrity, interviewed by radio stations, newspapers, and magazines. He tried to remain grounded, insisting he wasn't claiming alien contact or supernatural powers. He even undertook personal investigations, interviewing others who had similar sightings, including the famous Maury Island incident, another early UFO case that ended in mystery and tragedy. The U.S. Air Force couldn't ignore what was happening. In the wake of Arnold's sighting, the Air Force launched Project Sign in 1948, Tide's first official investigation into unidentified aerial phenomena. The U.S. government now uses the term UAP, identified aerial phenomena, acknowledges they have encountered craft that defy known physics. The goal was simple: determine if these objects were a threat to national security. Analysts combed through hundreds of reports. They investigated radar anomalies, interviewed witnesses, and compared sightings with known aircraft tests and astronomical events. Often, it starts with a single voice, a single witness, a moment that no one can explain. Though Project Sign leaned toward the possibility that these craft were of interplanetary origin, their findings were inconclusive. But by doing so, he opened a door that can never be closed. Theories about what Kenneth Arnold saw have ranged widely over the decades. 1. Experimental aircraft. Some believe Arnold may have witnessed secret U.S. or Soviet prototypes being tested in the region. 2. Atmospheric phenomena. Skeptics suggest Arnold saw reflections, mirages, or rare weather events. Do UFOs exist, or was it all a grand misunderstanding? 3. Birds or balloons, a stretch given the speed and formation. 4. Extraterrestrial vehicles, the most sensational theory, and the one that captivated the public imagination. But none of these explanations fully align with Arnold's observations. Arnold stood by his account for the rest of his life. Kenneth Arnold's experience reshaped history in ways no one could have predicted. His sighting directly led to the widespread adoption of the term flying saucer, the creation of the UFO subculture, the beginning of official government investigations, inspiration for science fiction, TV shows, films, and conspiracy theories that still influence pop culture today. Without Arnold's sighting, there might never have been a Roswell incident, no X-Files, no Area 51 obsession, and no modern UFO disclosure movement. It all began with one flight over Mount Rainier. They were flying so fast, I couldn't believe it. I know what I saw, and it wasn't from this world. Kenneth Arnold. Years later, Arnold remained adamant that he never embellished or exaggerated. In recent years, interest in UFOs has surged once again. Declassified military footage, pilot reports, and congressional hearings have thrust the topic back into the mainstream. But even with modern technology, radar, and satellites, the mystery endures. And every time we look to the skies and wonder what's out there, we return to June 24th, 1947, to the moment when Kenneth Arnold saw something strange, something fast, and something that didn't belong. History rarely begins with fanfare. Kenneth Arnold didn't set out to change the world. He simply reported what he saw. The age of UFOs began that day, and over 70 years later, we're still trying to understand what really happened in the skies above Mount Rainier. Maybe one day we'll know the truth. Until then, we keep watching the skies. If this story fascinated you, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think Kenneth Arnold saw? Let's discuss. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.